My name is Joe Peroni, and this is the Rise Above Project. And today I'm going to answer the question, why is it so difficult to change your thoughts? Now, the reason why I want to do this show today is because I've had a lot of clients over the years who have done a lot of good work, and they're definitely trying to do their best to get better. And the most popular form of therapy today is CBT, or we can call it cognitive behavioral therapy. And not only is it the most popular among therapists today, but it's also the mode of therapy that insurance companies want therapists to use. Part of the reason for this is because it's brief and it's supposedly effective and it's evidence-based. They don't like to get into too much of a psychodynamic treatment because it takes a lot longer to treat somebody if you're going to use that mode of therapy. But what I've noticed over the years is that when people are doing CBT, and they do it to themselves after a while, as you should be able to, in other words, you want to challenge your thinking, challenge your thoughts, many of them come back to me and they'll say, it's very difficult to change your thoughts. Like, how do you just basically snap your fingers and change your thoughts? And I have to tell them at least what I believe is the truth here. So in order for all of us to be on the same page as I answer this, what I need to do is go to the basics of what CBT is. And the basics are this. A person has a thought or thoughts which leads to a feeling, and then that feeling will lead you to a behavior. Now, it sounds very simple, and it is simplified. As a matter of fact, I think it's too simplified. It becomes very superficial, but let's just go with it for now. So let's give an example. Let's say you have one person, and they text somebody, their friend, their partner, someone like that, and they don't get a text back for what they think is a reasonable amount of time. Let's say, I don't know, half a day, then they haven't received a text. Now, there's going to be a feeling here. The feeling could be that they feel bad, they feel angry, they feel annoyed, they feel frustrated that this person has not texted them back yet. But where did this feeling come from? Well, in CBT, what we would do is we would have a look at this person's thoughts. Now, this person could have thoughts such as, this person I texted, they don't really like me. They're trying to hurt me in some way. This person that I texted, they don't think I'm important. Or perhaps this person I texted is with somebody else and they're cheating on me in some way. They think somebody else is much more important. They're spending time with them, and there's no way that they would get back to them and text them just because they just don't matter that much. Now, if you felt like this, or I should say if you thought like this, your feeling would definitely be negative, right? You would feel angry, annoyed, frustrated. So what do we do about that? Well, the solution, according to CBT, is to challenge the thought. Now, we could change that thought. Tell the person what other thought might be productive for you. Maybe the other person, they didn't get the message yet. Not everybody sits on their phone all day, right, waiting to message somebody back. That could be number one. Or maybe they're just busy. Maybe they're in a meeting. Maybe they're with clients. Maybe they're driving somewhere. And therefore, they didn't get back to you. Now, if you think like that, your feeling is going to be much better. That would make sense. So CBT definitely seems to make sense in that regard. So in general, if you assume the worst of people, if that's your thought, if you assume the worst in people, your behaviors probably will lead you to being a poor partner and not such a good friend. So if your thought is, let's say, neutral, or you assume the best in people, then your feelings are going to be improved and your behavior will probably lead you to being a pretty good friend or a pretty good partner. So all that makes sense. So the only thing we did there was just insert a different thought into somebody's head. And so we have to either tell them to do that, or have them come up with their own thought that might lead to a better feeling, which then the feeling would lead to a better behavior. So we're all good. It all makes sense. But now we have to come back to the original problem. Why is it so difficult for some people to change their thoughts? And here's the answer. Because in CBT, the thought is considered to be the problem. But many times the thought is not the problem. The thought is actually a symptom of much deeper problems. For example, symptoms of trauma would include things such as hypervigilance, negative core beliefs, low self-esteem, insecure attachment, and irrational thinking. So when we're trying to tell somebody just to snap their fingers to change a thought, how are you going to do that when they have probably a lot of unresolved trauma in their life? One of the thoughts that comes to my head is that sometimes people have difficulty relating this to people for some reason. So I'll use my cat as an example, right? So I have William is a feral cat. The first 2 years, and obviously as a feral, he was totally afraid of people, didn't want anything to do with people. You couldn't get near him without him hissing. And if you did get close, you probably gonna get on the wrong side of his claws. But after about 2 years, he's completely changed. Now, what if William was a human and he had all that trauma? Could you just tell him, listen, relax, I'm a good person, change your thought. All humans are good. Don't worry, I'm feeding you. I wouldn't hurt you. Change your thought. That would never work, right? Like we could see how it would never work with an animal. What did work was over 2 years of different experiences for him. In other words, he was being fed every day. He was being talked to in a nice way. You could be in the same room with him and you don't invade his personal space. If he wanted to get near you, he would. If he didn't, you would leave him alone. So he started to feel very safe. So therefore, it didn't take this thing of just change your thought. What it had to do with was experiencing something different, something pleasurable, something safe, many, many, many times over a long period of time in order for him to change. Why? Because feral cats are, that's the epitome of a traumatized animal. So when we look at human beings, how do we expect a traumatized human being that has had probably a lot of pain, they've been invalidated, they've been made to feel small and worthless, they've been made that their opinions don't matter, that they're in a dangerous situation just to be themselves, and we're going to tell them, change your thoughts, it's all good. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Some unhelpful thoughts and core beliefs of trauma survivors include things such as they believe that they're worthless, that they're helpless, shameful. You'll see a lot of that. They feel very guilty just for being alive. They exist in a lot of shame. They think that they're ugly, damaged, broken, stupid, unworthy to be looked at, to be talked at, to have feelings, to have any emotions, to have any wants, not worthy to have any needs. They believe that they can't trust themselves. And why would they in their environment, right? And they feel like they can't trust others. They feel like they're not worthy of love. They don't know how to love others. They don't know if they should trust others that say that they love them. They believe that they need to be protecting themselves all the time. Why is that? Because they probably did, right? That makes sense in their environment. They believe the world's dangerous. Why? Because it probably was for them. Again, they believe they're powerless, weak. They believe that they are failures. They have a lot of black and white thinking. Sometimes things are really great, And then the next second, next day, everything is terrible. They have catastrophic thinking, thinking that everything is going to fall down and break and be terrible. They do a lot of negative forecasting. They don't believe in themselves, and they focus on the negatives. They discount the positives. They don't advocate for themselves. I could do this all day. I could name all of the negatives that people may or may not have from having unresolved childhood trauma. What person out there would ever believe that you could just tell a person like that to snap their fingers and change all their thoughts? Like, you don't have to be an expert in psychology to think that that's incredibly stupid to believe. Having difficulty changing your thoughts is correlated to unresolved childhood trauma. So there you have it. If cognitive behavioral therapy works for you, you're probably not experiencing, at least to a certain degree, of childhood trauma. But if you can't use CBT, because the thought of just analyzing your thinking, analyzing your thoughts, and just inserting a new thought and just going with it, if that doesn't work for you, then you need to try something else. You need to work on your traumas. CBT can be very helpful for a lot of people, and I understand that. Do I use it? Of course I do. However, it's not okay for a lot of people out there that have experienced trauma. Cognitive behavioral therapy is extremely superficial, and it can actually potentially shame a lot of clients because it's not easy to do what CBT is trying to do for people. CBT was popular, but it was under a different name. But CBT was popular over 2,000 years ago. It was considered to be Stoic philosophy. In other words, something happens to you, change your thought, get over it. And we're still using that therapy today, and it works in some ways. However, over 2,000 years ago, does anybody really believe that people cared that much about unresolved trauma or complex post-traumatic stress disorder? They didn't even know what that was back then. They didn't treat that stuff back then. So therefore, you have to use the right tool for the job. So again, let me finish with this. Why is it so difficult to change your thoughts? If it is, that's correlated to you having an invalidated childhood with unresolved trauma. So I would suggest, or I would invite you to consider that you need to work on your traumas first. So hopefully this has been beneficial for you. My name is Joseph Perrone. This is the Rise Above Project. Please subscribe and tell a friend. Thank you.